What's happening, fellas? Happy Tuesday to you. Now, this is one of my, you've heard me say it a few times before, what I call an unplanned video. There's some videos I plan to do minimum 12 to 24 hours ahead of time, if not longer. So I would say probably maybe, I don't know, 2/3 of my videos, I plan to do them usually the day before. Then there's some videos that something comes up in the spur of the moment, and I do like I like to call either a spontaneous video or an unplanned video podcast, and this would fall into that category. But here's the deal. I had a follower that told me he got into I don't know if it was in the comment section of a YouTube video or on a blog site or discussion forum, but the subject was, who first introduced you to the world of red pill beliefs, attitudes, ideologies, philosophies, etc.? Who was your first red pill thought leader? And my follower said different people named a couple different people. He named me. He told the people he was in a discussion with that I was his first red pill thought leader. I know of at least 2 other names that were mentioned, among others. Rollo Tomasi. This follower said a few people mentioned Rollo Tomasi in his book, The Rational Male, was their first. They designated Rollo Tomasi as their first red pill thought leader. But anyway, he said it was 2 guys, I believe they were both African American, that said that the late great comedian Patrice ONeal was their first red pill thought leader. And this follower of mine got into first just a discussion with these two other guys. And then they kind of got into not too much of a heated debate, but somewhat of a mildly heated debate, because I guess these 2 other guys tried to say, they said something to the fact that they tried to suggest that I borrowed some talking points from Patrice ONeal. And my fellow said, no, I doubt seriously if that happened, because Alan Roger Currie had been dropping knowledge since the 1980s. He was around before Patrice ONeal, which is true, actually. Matter of fact, to give you a quick backstory, the reason why I didn't, even though I used to do, most people know I actually used to do stand-up comedy myself back in 1989 and 1990. I used to do stand-up comedy. So I've usually been familiar with a lot of black comedians, definitely from the Chicago area and even nationwide. I've usually been familiar with most black comedians. But I didn't become familiar with Patrice ONeal until some of my Mode 1 followers start writing me saying, hey, Alan, I think Patrice ONeal has read your book, Mode 1. He has a lot of Mode 1 type humor. And when I started listening to him, I was like, damn, he does. But yeah, that's how I first found out. I didn't know about Patrice ONeal. I didn't find out about Patrice ONeal until about the mid to late 2000s, somewhere between 2006 and 2010 was when I first found out about Patrice ONeal. And it was because of my Mode 1 followers. Yeah, they felt like, if anything, they felt like he had borrowed talking points from me. Now, I would never say that as a fact, because I don't know. I don't know if he ever read my book, Mode 1, or not. But I can say with full conviction, I didn't borrow any talking points from him, because I didn't know who the fuck he was until after my book was written. And I say that with all due respect to him, but I didn't know who the hell Patrice ONeal was until after I was already established in the manosphere. Anyway, to get to the point. So my father said they were kind of going back and forth over who came first. And then he said one of the two guys he was getting in the debate with said, yeah, I used to respect Alan Roger Currie, but one of the things that made me lose respect for him was when he got engaged last year and later got married. You can't call yourself red pill and be married. Insert dog face here. Man, I thought I was done with these stupid ass arguments and discussions and debates. If you remember, just last year, starting with around mid to late February, all the way up until probably, I don't know, mid to late summer, early fall, I did about no less than 3, and I think no more than 5 videos where I addressed this issue of people suggesting that I'm not red pill, but I'm now purple pill because of the fact that I got married. That's a stupid argument. I just started out saying it's a stupid argument. You don't know what the fuck you're talking about. Anybody who says that, they dumb. Tell them I said it. Give me your number, I'll tell you directly my goddamn self. You're a stupid motherfucker if you say that, if you believe that. You're dumb. Dumb. Stupid, dumb, ignorant. Sick of you dumbass motherfuckers on YouTube and in the manosphere. You dumb motherfuckers. I mentioned Rollo Tomasi. Do you know a lot of people call him the godfather of red pill knowledge and wisdom? I know y'all know Rollo is married and has been for a number of years. So for people to say, and I pointed this out on previous video, for people to say you can't be married and be red pill at the same time, again, Rollo, a lot of his followers consider him the godfather of red pill knowledge and wisdom. And he's been married for years, for decades. For at least like 2 or 3 decades, he's been married. But going back to Patrice ONeal, here's the thing that these idiots, they said they were singing the praises of Patrice ONeal and saying, well, Alan Roger Currie, he's no longer red pill, he's purple pill. Obviously, these guys don't even know the history of Patrice ONeal. And they're supposed to be big fans of Patrice ONeal. Do you know that at the time of his death, Patrice ONeal was about to be married? Even though he did a video called Never Get Married? I go on YouTube. I found a video this morning where he was actually advising guys 2 things. Never get married and never go to college. I'm actually touch on the college piece before this video is over. But 2 things he was giving advice on this particular video. He said never get married and never go to college. But interesting enough, he was scheduled to get married in December of the year he died. But he ended up passing away about a month or 2 before his wedding. He was engaged to be married at the time of his death. Matter of fact, if you've been following me since my Blog Talk Radio days, you'll remember I interviewed his fiance. That was one of my last interviews before I ended my show on Blog Talk Radio. Now, I interviewed her in spring of 2016. I interviewed Von DeCarlo Brown. That's his fiance. Her name is Von DeCarlo Brown. Matter of fact, I did a 2-in-1 interview. I interviewed Von DeCarlo, which was his fiance at the time of his death. And then I interviewed for the second time one of his best friends and former co-host of the Black Phillip Show, a brother named Dante Nero. Dante Nero is real cool. He's a former street pimp and former male stripper turned stand-up comedian and podcast host. He hosts the show. I don't know if he still hosts it, but he did an interview with me on his show called The Beige Phillips Show. The Beige Phillips Show, which was a spinoff of Patrice O'Neal's old podcast show called The Black Phillips Show, which was a parody of the Dr. Phil. He kind of lightheartedly referred to himself as the Black Dr. Phil, and that's what led to the term The Black Phillip Show. He's basically saying, I'm the Black Dr. Phil. And then after he passed away, Dante Nero created a podcast show called The Beige Phillips Show. I was actually a guest on his show once. And yeah, I interviewed both of them on the same night. I interviewed Von DiCarlo, his former fiance. So, in a nutshell, if you're going to say I'm now purple pill simply because of the fact that I got married and I'm no longer red pill, which I don't agree with, but for argument's sake, if you're going to say that, then you would have to say that Patrice O'Neal was purple pill before his death. You would have to say at the time of his death, he was purple pill. Ain't no way you can say, if you're going to say I stopped being red pill the moment I proposed to my wife, and even more so the moment I got married, then you would have to say Patrice O'Neal is purple pill. Because again, he was scheduled to be married in December of the year he died, which I think was, when did he die? He died in, I think, either 2011 or 2013. It was one of those. Let me look it up real quick. Okay, 2011. That's what I thought. Yeah, he died in late November of 2011. He was actually scheduled to get married that very next month in December of 2011. He was scheduled to get married. His wedding was going to be in mid to late December of 2011, but he ended up dying due to complications related to type 2 diabetes. And I think high blood pressure, combination of type 2 diabetes and high blood pressure is what killed him. But yeah, man. So for all you guys who feel like Patrice O'Neal is your number one red pill thought leader, the one who introduced you to red pill knowledge, wisdom, beliefs, attitudes, ideologies, philosophies, if he's your number one role model for a red pill lifestyle, but yet those same guys are criticizing me for being purple pill, then you would have to say your boy was purple pill. Because again, one difference between me and him, and I've said this a number of times, I never spoke out. You've never heard me publicly say that I'm anti-marriage. I've never told a guy, don't get married, ever. Like I remember Bernard Riley did an interview with me about my book, The Beta Male Revolution, and that was one of his questions. He was like, Alan, aren't you contradicting the advice you gave in the Beta Male Revolution? Because I could have sworn in the Beta Male Revolution, you said you were basically discouraging guys from getting married. And I said, no, I didn't. I said, you won't be able to find one sentence, one paragraph, or one chapter in that book where I specifically say, don't get married. Ramil Amir is another one who I had a debate about that. Matter of fact, that was the first time I ever jumped up on one of Ramil's live streams. Was, if anybody remembers, it was in early March of 2020, last year. That was when I first became familiar with Ramil. He was talking about something to do with marriage. And this other black male YouTuber, I'm not going to say his name, I'll give a hint though. He's infamously known for being long-winded. Even though I am too, among some circles. But that's his trademark. He's known for being long-winded. But he was on Ramil's live stream and he brought up my name. He said, they were talking about red pill versus black pill versus purple pill and blue pill. And he said, one content creator I used to respect as a red pill enthusiast was Alan Roger Currie, but I recently found out he's engaged, so he no longer qualifies for being red pill. just by the fact he's engaged, that automatically means he's purple pill. And I jumped on the panel and lit into his ass. And anybody else who felt that same way. Because again, from my perspective, it's a stupid argument. For those of you ignorant, most of y'all know what that is, but I'm going to tell you what it is. What does it mean to be purple pill? A lot of people are familiar with blue pill. I just mentioned on recent video, there's a debate on the description and definition of red pill versus black pill. Here's what purple pill is. There's basically, I would say, 3 general definitions of purple pill. 3 general descriptions and definitions of purple pill. Definition and description number 1 of purple pill would be somebody who starts off blue pill, which basically means you're very naive and idealistic about women's true nature. Then you transition into becoming red pill, but then you experience a series of events that causes you to go back to being blue pill. That's definition and description number 1 of purple pill. I give a real life example. Let's say you were a guy who was blue pill, and then 2 of your ex-girlfriends cheated on you, which caused you to become red pill because you realize how romantically unfaithful women could be. But then you meet another woman who you firmly believe is your soulmate and love of your life, and you go back to espousing the virtues of being blue pill. That would mean you're purple. That's one definition of purple pill. You start out blue pill, you transition into being red pill, and then you essentially go back to being blue pill. That's I would say definition description number 1 of purple pill. Number 2 is when you are a person who's considered a thought leader and influencer, and you give advice to other men, and a large percentage of your advice is kind of a blend, a combination of red pill knowledge, wisdom, and advice, and blue pill knowledge, wisdom, and advice. You kind of almost simultaneously offer men what I would call a blend or combination of blue pill advice and red pill advice. That would make you purple pill. That would make you purple pill. And then the third and final definition and description of purple pill would be a guy who is mostly red pill, but he suppresses a lot of his real the harsher and more hardcore aspects of red pill knowledge, wisdom, and insight, because he doesn't want to ruffle the feathers of radical feminists, and he doesn't want to be labeled or categorized as a misogynist / woman hater or a borderline misogynist / woman hater. That would be the third definition. Yeah, you mostly offer red pill knowledge, wisdom, and insight to men, but you kind of hold back or suppress your more harsher aspects, your harsher and more hardcore commentary related to being red pill, because you don't want to ruffle the feathers of radical feminists, and you don't want to be labeled or categorized as a misogynist or a borderline misogynist. That's the third definition description of purple pill. I don't fall into any of those 3 categories. Let's start with category number 1. I've never started off blue pill, then went to red pill, and went back to blue pill. Number, like, for example, specifically as it relates to marriage, I don't specifically encourage men to get married. But at the same time, I don't specifically discourage them to get married. And while I'm on that point, I'm going to tell you motherfuckers something, man. And this might bring on my alter ego Rambo side. I'm hearing a lot of you male content creators, really I would say of all races, but particularly black, speaking on marriage when you ain't never been married. Shut the fuck up. Real talk. You need to shut the fuck up. If you ain't never been married, you need to shut the fuck up. Real talk from Alan Roger Currie. Real talk. You need to shut the fuck up. You ain't got no credibility to be talking about marriage. None whatsoever. None. Zero. I dare you to debate me on it. You have zero credibility. That's what's wrong with the YouTube manifestation of the manosphere. You got too many motherfuckers speaking on shit that they don't have the credibility to be talking about. If you ain't never been married, you shouldn't be doing either one. You shouldn't be singing the praises of marriage. How you know if marriage is beneficial if you ain't never been married? How you know marriage is beneficial if you ain't never been married? You need to shut the fuck up. On the flip side, and this is probably the greater percentage, guys who be discouraging other men from getting married. They ain't never been married themselves. Shut the fuck up, man. You don't know what the fuck you talking about. You ain't never came. Most of the guys I hear be discouraging other guys from being married. They ain't came close to marriage. They ain't came close to marriage. They ain't came close to marriage. They ain't got no women ready to be their wife. They ain't got not one woman ready to be their wife and they talking shit about marriage. Man, shut the fuck up. If you've been married, you can speak in either direction. No, to me, the only people who have the credibility to speak in either the direction of encouraging other men to get married or discouraging other men from getting married, are men who've been married at least once, preferably twice, 2 or more times. But I'd say a minimum once. If you've been married, if you're either A, currently married, then you got the right to speak on both the pros and cons of marriage. And category A is if you're currently married or if you've been divorced at least once. Preferably, I'd say 2 or more times, but at least once you've been divorced. Then you got the credibility to speak on marriage all you want to. I ain't got no criticism issue with you. If you currently married or you've been divorced at least once, then you have the credibility to offer lengthy and detailed commentary on marriage, either in a positive way or a negative way. But if you ain't never been married, you ain't never been engaged to be married, you need to shut the fuck up. Seriously, you need to shut the fuck up, man. Most of the guys I hear discouraging other men from getting married is guys that's never been married. I say at least, seem like if I'm giving a rough estimate, I say at least 60% of the guys, if not more, I hear regularly discouraging other men from getting married is guys that never been married themselves. They never been engaged to be married. Man, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, see, like that's just like me. Before I got married, man, I never did either one. I still don't. I'm married now and I still don't. Again, if there's 2 things I never do, I never have specifically encouraged all men to get married, and I've never specifically discouraged all men from getting married. I've never done either one of those 2 things, ever. Definitely before I get married, I never did either one of those 2 things. And even since I've been married, I've never done one of those 2 things. I always say, my general consensus on marriage is that marriage is beneficial for some men and it's detrimental for other men. I would never make a blanket statement that marriage is beneficial for all men. I would never make a blanket statement that marriage is detrimental for all men, because both of those would be a lie. In reality, both of those would be a lie. If anybody was to say marriage is beneficial for all heterosexual men, you're lying. You're lying and you know you're lying. You're lying. Some men should never be married, ever. Point blank, I say that in my book, The Beta Male Revolution. There's some men, heterosexual men, that should never, ever, ever get married, ever. And on the flip side, I would never say as a blanket statement that marriage is detrimental to all men. Because I got friends, frat brothers, and other close friends. Yeah, I got close friends and fraternity brothers who've been married as long as 30 years, man. Like my best friend who lives in Indianapolis, man, he been married since 1990. He been married 31 years. I ain't never heard him complain about marriage. My older brother, he's been married since 2008. I ain't never heard him complain about marriage. I got a number of other male friends and acquaintances and fraternity brothers who've been married a minimum of 10 years or longer. I ain't never heard them complain about marriage. No, not even like one time. Not even one time. Then on the flip side, I got some other friends, acquaintances, frat brothers. Like I got a few frat brothers, they on that. I got one frat brother I know off the top of my head. He's on his third marriage. Yeah. Matter of fact, I just saw him a week ago, Memorial Day weekend. The frat brother I'm talking about, I just saw him. He pledged. We pledged together. He's on his third marriage, and he don't have no complaints about marriage. You would think if a guy is twice divorced, he would be totally anti-marriage. You would think that. He loves being married. He's on his third and longest marriage. He had 2 brief marriages before his third wife that lasted, I think, no more than 2 or 3 years. And now he's been on his third marriage for over like, I think, 15 years. I ain't never heard him say nothing negative about marriage. And he's on his third marriage. That's just like I mentioned on the previous video, man. I remember I went to a party in Northern Virginia in, I think it was late 2017. And my former college buddy who hosted the party, he's been married twice. He's twice divorced. And I was asking him, I said, do you have any like bitterness towards women and specifically black women because of the fact that you've been divorced twice? And he kind of looked at me like, what? And I said, you don't have any sentiments of, oh, I'll never get married again and all these black women are bitches and that type of thing? And he was basically like, hell no. He said, I would very much get married again. Matter of fact, he's in a serious relationship right now, but he's not married to her, but he's in a serious relationship. But yeah, he's twice divorced. Yeah, one of his previous wives, he said, was just a blatant gold digger. She was a gold digger. And the other one, they just didn't get along. But, because he's like a millionaire. And, but yeah, he had no harsh criticisms against marriage. Even though again, on paper, you would think a guy who's twice divorced would be automatically totally anti-marriage. But he told me, he said he's still open to getting married. But yeah, man, I'm really irritated, man, listening to guys talk about marriage who I know for a fact have never been married. You ain't got the credibility you don't have the credibility to do either one again. You don't have the credibility to be telling all men to get married, to be encouraging all men to get married, and you don't have the credibility to be discouraging all men from getting married. Because you don't know what marriage is about, because you ain't never been married, motherfucker. You ain't never been married. Real talk. Like, I'll speak for myself, man. You know, I'm still, you know, I think if you ain't at a year yet, you're still technically a newlywed. So I'm still a newlywed. I've been cohabitating with my wife since October of 2019. I've been living with her, and I've been married since mid-July of last year. So far, I have no complaints on marriage. Now, I can't speak for the future. I'm not going to try to speak for a year from now, 2 years from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now. I'm not going to try to speak for it. But as of right now, today, June 8th, 2021, I have absolutely no criticisms of marriage. None. I love being married. I'll tell you straight up. I'll be honest with you, man. I love being married. Now, I think for me, if I'm being honest, I think 2 things that contributes to how much I enjoy marriage is a combination of having a son and my age. Having a son and my age. For example, I'm realistic enough to say, if I was, say, 28 instead of 58, or even maybe 38 instead of 58, I would probably, 90% chance, I would probably still want to sow a lot of my wild oats. I would still want to sow a lot of my wild oats. Consequently, I probably wouldn't be enjoying marriage as much as I do at 58. But man, I've sold enough wild oats for 25 motherfuckers in my life. Real talk. That's real talk. I've sold enough wild oats for 25 motherfuckers in my life. That ain't a priority of mine no more. Even though technically, me and my wife are in a polyamorous marriage. I could, technically, if I wanted to, I could still go out there and fuck another woman. but I haven't as of yet. But yeah, I enjoy marriage. Particularly, I enjoy marriage as it relates to being parents of a son. As most people know, and I'm not trying to pass judgment on anybody who was born out of wedlock or they themselves had kids out of wedlock. This is a personal thing for me. So I'm not passing judgment on nobody. But for me, one of the reasons I wanted to get married as it relates to my son, I never wanted a child out of wedlock. Starting with my 20s up until now, I never wanted a child out of wedlock, ever. Even though, as I publicly confessed before, I was almost on the verge of having a child out when I was in college with my college sweetheart. If there was one other woman I got pregnant, was when I was in college. My college sweetheart got pregnant, but because she didn't want to drop out of school, she decided to have an abortion. But if she would have had the baby, we weren't married, I would have had a son or daughter out of wedlock. But that incident aside, I've never wanted to be a baby daddy. Never, ever. Never wanted to be a baby daddy. I've always wanted my child to be born to two parents that were legally married. And I've accomplished that. But yeah, I enjoy both marriage and I enjoy fatherhood like a mug. It's magnificent. No complaints whatsoever. But in final conclusion, the fact that I'm married now, what have I changed in terms of my red pill-oriented knowledge, wisdom, insight, and advice? What have I changed? Like, you take somebody like Roosh V. Roosh V, man, he would be a good example of somebody who's now purple pill. He used to write books all about scoring casual sex from women, but then he became a born-again Christian, and now he's just the opposite. He's totally anti-casual sex. He no longer believes in pursuing women for premarital sex or any type of sex outside the context of marriage because of his religious beliefs. See, that's the true definition of somebody who's purple pill. Roosh V would be a classic example of somebody who's truly, genuinely, legitimately purple pill now. Yeah, he's sworn off all of his former red pill attitudes, particularly as it relates to casual sex. You ain't never heard me, now that I'm married, telling guys, hey, you shouldn't be pursuing women for casual sex. I ain't never said that. And again, I've never said that, hey, all you guys should get married. Marriage ain't for everybody. Just like being a confirmed bachelor for the rest of your life ain't for everybody. Ain't nothing for everybody. That's what all y'all need to really realize when it comes to relationship choices. Ain't nothing for everybody. A promiscuous lifestyle ain't for everybody. A monogamous lifestyle ain't for everybody. A married lifestyle ain't for everybody. An unmarried lifestyle ain't for everybody. I don't trust anybody who tries to tell other men that this lifestyle is for everybody. You a damn lie. Give me your number so I can tell you directly. You a damn lie. It ain't no relationship lifestyle that is conducive and beneficial for every heterosexual man on earth. None. I say that in my book, The Beta Male Revolution, in the latter chapters. That's what I say in the latter chapters of The Beta Male Revolution. It ain't no one lifestyle that is conducive and beneficial to all heterosexual men. Like, I mentioned my brother a few times, my older brother, classic example. My brother got to a point in his mid to late 30s where he literally began hating casual sex. He hated casual sex. This was a guy who used to be a womanizer and player when he was in his late teens, 20s, early to mid 30s. And then over the course of like 2, 3, 4 years in his mid to late 30s, he did almost pretty much a 180. He got to a point, man, where with a passion, hated indulging in casual sex. Even though he was handsome enough and smooth enough to still be a womanizer. But he told me, and I mentioned this on a few previous videos. I remember we had a discussion one time, right before he got engaged to his now wife. I said, bro, man, what made you like? He said, once I got into about my late 30s, man, he said, casual sex didn't do shit for me, man. He said, I would actually rather masturbate to a porno movie than engage in casual sex. He said, physically, it was still, enjoyable and satisfying. But he said, mentally and emotionally, He said, man, casual sex didn't do shit for me, man. It was like, it was almost the equivalent of like fucking a blow up, one of them blow up dolls or something like he said it just didn't do shit for me, man. He said it left me feeling empty every time. So see, my brother is like an example, man, that you would never be able to preach to my brother about the benefits of remaining a confirmed bachelor and continuing to be a womanizer and a player indefinitely. Because my brother was like, man, fuck that shit. He was like, fuck that shit, man. So anyway, man, I'm still red pilled in a motherfucker, man. I dare anybody to say I'm not. Just because I got married, again, man, you got guys like Rolo, man. Again, Rolo by some people his nickname is the Godfather of red pill knowledge and wisdom. And he's been married for like 2 or 3 decades. You gonna tell Rolo he's blue pill? You gonna tell Rolo he's purple pill? Come on, man. Just because he's married? Fuck out of here. That's stupid, man. I told you. I'm going to recap again, then I'm going to move on to my next subject. Here are the 3 general categories of purple pill. Purple pill, category number 1, a purple pill guy is a guy who starts off espousing nothing but blue pill related attitudes, beliefs, knowledge, wisdom, ideologies, philosophies. Then they transition into becoming red pill, but then because they meet a woman that they deeply fall in love with and believe is their soulmate and love of their life, they go completely back to being blue pill. That's category number 1 of purple pill. Category number 2 is when you're giving advice to men that when you analyze it, is almost a blend or combination of blue pill ideologies and red pill ideologies. You don't give just one or the other. You give kind of a blend of both. Some of your advice can be considered blue pill advice, while other aspects of your advice is considered red pill advice. That would be category number 2 of a purple pill guy. Third category of a purple pill guy would be a guy who's just about all of his advice is red pill, but he holds back, like suppresses some of the more harsher and hardcore aspects of red pill ideologies and philosophies and wisdom for fear of ruffling the feathers of radical feminists and for fear of being labeled a misogynist or a borderline misogynist. Like it might be somebody who has a certain career where they feel like if they get labeled a misogynist or some of that nature, it might negatively affect their career or the job they currently have, in the corporate world or something. That would be category number. I don't fall into any of those 3 categories. I still speak my mind in red pill fashion. So anyway, the second thing I want to touch on before I end the video is, this goes back to Patrice ONeal. Patrice ONeal, I was listening to this video, and they were talking to some guy who was about to get married, and without getting a long story, he made 2 strong assertions during this podcast. Patrice ONeal did. He said, never get married, which again, he must have had a change of heart at some point, because at the time of his death, he was engaged to be married. He was set to be married the very next month. He was set to be married to Von DeCarlo Brown in December of 2011, but he ended up dying right after Thanksgiving in 2011. So that was his first strong assertion. He said, never get married. Then he said, his second strong assertion was, he said, never go to college. He said, if you're an ambitious person, he said, you should never go to college. And his main reason was, he said, the main reason I'm against college is because, I'm slightly paraphrasing those words, but he said, college does nothing but teach you how to be a good employee for somebody else. He said, now, if you're the type of person that don't mind spending the rest of your life working for somebody, he said, then college is the way to go. But he said, if you're a person who is really ambitious and has a lot of entrepreneurial related goals and ambitions, he said you should never go to college. He said he basically said college is not for people who want to become really, 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 really wealthy and want to own their own business. He said you could accomplish those things without a college degree. Now, I've heard different people here on YouTube, both black and non-black guys, sometimes harshly criticize the idea of attending college and graduating from college. Like, I've heard at least 2 black male YouTube content creators probably over the past 2 to 3 years do podcast live streams where they actually said college is bullshit. There's no benefit to college. College is a waste of time and money. It don't necessarily mean you're more intelligent than a person who never attended college or never graduated from college. Blah, 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 blah. I have mixed feelings on the whole college as far as whether it's beneficial or not. I would say, because see, if people know my backstory to do with education, so I've been on both ends of the stick. I was what's known as a non-traditional college student. That means anytime, if you graduate within 5 years or less after you graduate from high school, if you end up graduating from college, undergrad, within 5 years or less after you graduate from high school, some would say 6 years or less, then that's when you're generally categorized as a traditional college student. So if I'm being generous, instead of 5, I'll say 6. If you graduate from college within 6 years or less after you graduate from high school, that means you're a traditional college student. If it took you longer than 6 years to get your bachelor's degree, your undergraduate degree, that means you're both me and my brother were non-traditional college students. Like, I didn't earn my college degree until I was 29 years old. I was 29 years old when I finished undergrad. And then I went on to do 1 year of graduate business school. My brother was even later than that. My brother didn't get his undergraduate degree until he was like 42. For me, I'll start with this. And I can't make this too long because I'm running out of time. The number one thing, whether college is going to be beneficial to you or not beneficial to you, depends on combination. The starting point is these 2 things. What's your ultimate career goal? And what college or university are you planning on attending? Like, if you're planning on being a medical doctor, you got to go to college. Yeah, it really ain't no other choice. You got to go. If you plan on being a medical doctor, you got to go to college. If you plan on being a credentialed psychiatrist, psychologist, sociologist, you got to go to college, and even more so grad school. A lot of it depends on what's your ultimate goal, career goal. Like, here's where I would actually agree with some people who have criticism of college. I did 1 year of graduate business school, otherwise known as an MBA program, in the Kelley School of Business at any university in Bloomington. And my close friends in real life know I had a lot of criticisms of MBA school that are actually along the lines of what Patrice ONeal said. To me, if your objective is to be a businessman, an entrepreneur, you don't absolutely positively need to have a college degree, undergraduate or graduate, to be an entrepreneur. It's not necessary. I ain't gonna say it's totally detrimental, but it ain't absolutely necessary. You know, I mean, like, for me, I felt like MBA school in many ways was a waste of time for me, man. More so than my undergraduate college years. Yeah, my 1 year MBA school, man, in many ways, it was a waste of time. It was a waste of time. I didn't feel like I really learned. For how much I was paying, even though I had a partial scholarship to pay for some of my stuff, but it wasn't really worth it for me, man. So, yeah, if your goal, Because see, well, one of my specific credits in MBA school, again related to what Patrice ONeal said, most MBA programs, they want you to work for the companies that support their program. Indiana University was like that. They ideally want you to become an employee of one of the Fortune 500 companies that support their program. They weren't really big advocates of entrepreneurship. So I ain't gonna get into a longer story, but yeah, I had a lot of mixed feelings on graduate business school, man. But now here's the number one area where I have no regrets on the time I invested and the money I invested to get my college degree, specifically my undergraduate degree. Is not related to jobs, because honestly, I've only had about 4 jobs in my life that specifically required a degree. I remember when I worked at NBC Studios, it required a college degree. Some of the entertainment industry temp assignments I had specifically required a degree. When I worked at the university, for Indiana University, which was my last 9-to-5 job before I became a full-time book author and dating coach, that job specifically required a degree. And I think there was one other job I had, I can't remember, that specifically required. A lot of other jobs I've had as an adult, they didn't require a degree. But here's where, see, a lot of people, when they talk about degrees and the benefits and or detriments of them, they strictly concentrate on if a degree is going to help you get a better job and help you with your career opportunities. Very few, if any, people talk about how it affects your personal life and social life. See, I like to keep shit real. I'm just keep shit real, man. If you're a guy that wants to be accepted into, as people call it, the boule, the world of the bougie folk, you almost have to have a degree, man. I'm just going to keep it blunt and keep it real. If you really want to be accepted in the world of what's known in terms of social stratification, social economic class, as the boule / bougie world, bougie social world, you pretty much got to have a degree. I'm telling you, trust me when I say this. I know from real life experience, you pretty much have to have a degree. A lot of people in the bougie world, if you're not in possession of a degree, at minimum, an undergraduate degree, and more preferably some type of graduate degree, you're going to be shunned by a lot of people in the bougie world. I guarantee that. I literally put money on that. You're going to be shunned. I was shunned. Before, I was a non-traditional student, man. I remember specifically, and people like my brother and people who are really, really close to me know all this shit I'm saying right now. This is one of the first time I admitted this publicly. But during that period where I didn't have my degree, before I got my degree, like in my mid-20s, I used to go to a lot of upper middle class, bougie type parties and social events, and I would be talking to certain women. Man, as soon as I would admit and confess that I didn't have my degree, their whole body language would change towards me. Like, women would initially be enthusiastic towards talking to me, and then when I mentioned I have a degree, they'd be like, oh, okay, it was a good meeting, Take care. And they would just walk off. Yeah, man, I'm telling you, man, if you want to hook up with real fine, bougie type women, particularly for a long-term relationship, more so than just casual sex, for a long-term relationship, and you ain't got no degree, I ain't going to say 100% of women in that category are going to shun you, but the vast majority of them, they're going to shun you. I give you a perfect example, would be my own cousin. I remember I got a cousin. She's a really lovely young lady. She lives in Smyrna, Georgia, with her husband. And we had a long conversation. This was when I was in MBA school. We was having a conversation. We talked for about 2 hours one time. We were talking about different stuff. And somehow we got to one point in the conversation where I was lightheartedly teasing her about, related to what I'm talking about. I said, sometimes you give me the impression that you would never, ever date a guy if he was blue collar, if he didn't have a degree. And she said it. She didn't even hesitate. She said, oh, fuck no. She said, I would never, ever date a guy that didn't. She said, not only would I never date a guy that didn't have an undergraduate degree, She said, if a guy doesn't have a graduate degree, I'm not dating him. I'm not dating them if they don't have a graduate degree. I said, you're serious. You sound serious. She said, I'm dead serious. And sure enough, her husband is a lawyer. But yeah, she told me that when I was in my late 20s, when she was in her late 20s too. Yep, she said that. She said, I would never even, she said, guys who don't have a degree are not even on my radar. And she was dead serious. But she said, guys who don't have a degree are not even on my radar. She said, most guys who just have an undergraduate degree are not on my radar. She said, for me to seriously date a guy like that, I look at it as long-term boyfriend or husband material. She said he gotta have some type of graduate degree, like medical degree, law degree, PhD. She was like, and I know there's a lot of sisters like that. It ain't just my cousin. I've talked to different sisters over the years. So I notice when people be talking about college degrees, they only talk about as it relates to getting a job. But I'm telling you, man, not that every brother aspires to be part of the boule or the bougie world, but assuming you do, degree is almost like a mandatory requirement, man. I'm telling you, man, there's certain parties you won't be invited to, man, if you ain't got no degree. There's a lot of women, man, who won't even consider dating you if you ain't got no college degree, man. They won't even consider dating you. If you read any book that deals with the subject of class, social stratification and informal, the United States has an informal caste system. It doesn't have an official caste system like, say, India. But we have our kind of unofficial, informal caste system, lower class, middle class, upper class, even more specifically like lower class, upper class, middle class, upper middle class, upper class, etc. If you read most books related to class, they'll tell you it's basically three things that will contribute to your social stratification. And I've talked about this on at least, I want to say, 2 prior videos before. There's generally 3 things that's always going to contribute to your social stratification in life. Number 1, I would say, is your degree of formal education. Close second would be your overall wealth, income, net worth. And to a lesser extent, a third factor is your looks. Those are 3 general factors that contribute to your social stratification. Education, your level of collegiate education, your level of income and or net worth, and to a somewhat lesser degree, your looks. Most bougie people are people who have, at bare minimum, an undergraduate degree, in most cases, a graduate degree. They earn no less than high 5 figures, and in most cases 6 figures or 7 figures, at minimum high 5 figures. And looks-wise, in most, not all cases, but in most cases, they have a certain look. I mean, see, that's the thing that's uncomfortable that people don't like to talk about, is that third category. Let's be honest, man. Some people just have what's known as a bougie pedigree. I can look at certain people and I'll be like, okay, that person's bougie. As opposed to from the streets. Like, you ain't gonna look at the rapper The Game and say he's bougie. All the tattoos, baseball hat turned around, that's almost the antithesis of a bougie person. I'm just keeping it blunt and real. A lot of bougie people are usually medium brown or lighter. Some of the black men got what's known in the hood as good hair. Not all. Now there's some, I've known some guys who were jet black that were still bougie. But they even the jet black guys had a certain look. Very clean cut. Usually no tattoos. Definitely no gold teeth in the mouth. Yeah, that's probably the most underrated factor that people don't like to talk about because it's uncomfortable to talk about. But next to education and income is your physical appearance, man. There's at least 2 or 3 books I've read that do with class that talk about that. Yeah, those are 3 main factors that contribute to your social stratification. And number 1, though, is education, man. it's hard to be truly consider yourself bougie, man, if you ain't got no degree, man. There might be some exceptions, some outliers that might accept you into the boule world. Like if you don't have a degree, but you say you got a brother or sister that does, that type of thing. But generally, man, you ain't gonna be in the bougie world, man, if you ain't got no degree. Again, I ain't talking about just random opinion. I'm talking about from first-hand experiences in my life, man. Before I got my degree, man, honestly, I'm publicly confessed, I was shunned by a lot of people in the bougie world before I got my degree. Particularly certain women, certain beautiful, red bones, that bougie look, light skin, long hair, Apollonia looking type chicks from Purple Rain. And them type of bougie chicks, man, shit, they shunned me, man. Some of them, a lot of them. That was interesting. I had some women, and I've talked about this before, there were some bougie women when I was in my 20s that would be willing to have casual sex with me without me having a degree, but they weren't willing to be in a long-term relationship with me. So you guys, now there's some women won't do either. They won't indulge in casual sex or a long-term relationship. But there's some women that would be willing to indulge in casual sex with me, but when when it came to being in a long-term relationship, they would basically be like, oh, hell no. Nope. So there you go. That's my thoughts on college. So yeah, it depends on what career path you pursue and whether college. For some people, I would probably say, depending on what career path you want, like I'll say actor. If you want to be an actor, there's some actors and actresses in Hollywood that have college degrees, like Angela Bassett. She has a degree from Yale Drama School. Then you got other actors never stepped foot on a college campus. You don't need to have a college degree to be an actor or actress. So that would be an example of something you don't need a degree for. It wouldn't hurt you to have one, but you don't need one. Get it? Got it? Good. I'm out of time. Until my next video, peace.
Yes, sir.
Say it again.
Yes, sir.
Who's the king?
Alan, you're the king.
Say it again.
Alan, you're the king. You're dominating me.
Say it again.
Alan, you're dominating me right now. Mode 1.
Mode 1.
Daddy, can I go, please? You're the king.
Say it again.
Oh, you're the fucking king. Yes.
You're the king, Alan.
AKA the king of verbal seduction. It's the tone of your voice, how seductive your intonations are, the vibrations that you could just reach out over the phone lines and stroke a woman's breast just by the sound of your voice, how you could make her pussy so wet just by the sound of your voice. That's actually very hot.
So you said my show was what?
I said your show is powerful.
Oh, say it again.
Your show is powerful.
I bet the king would fuck me really good.
Who's the king?
Alan Roger Currie.
Oh, yeah. Who's the king?
Alan Roger Currie. The king.
The king.
The king.
I have to agree with you on the communication piece, because I actually did take a session with Alan Roger Currie, and he gave me a line that I did not think was going to work, and it worked. And I was like, what the fuck?
Oh my God!
Man, he's the master. He's the master of the verbal seduction. He got that communication piece down pat.
It really worked. Yeah. It just simply worked, and I just didn't think it was going to work at all.
Some guys have natural handles. Some guys have a better natural shot, but you can always improve your shot. And sex is damn sure something you can fucking learn. Look, dude, you want to learn how to talk better? I'm hiring Alan Roger Currie to get my dirty talk game on, because it's always been something I want to get better at.
Verbal seduction, man. I'm like, clearly, this guy is the Michael Jordan of seduction. Like, come on now.